Hello and welcome to the Project 7890. Strange name maybe? Maybe not. Let me get to it. Introducing my KTM 790 2019 and all its bits. So what we're doing is we're swapping in a Duke R 890 engine into a 790 frame, running gear, everything. The story behind it is basically I had an overheated piston. The piston cracked, caused some damage. Bike was still running, just using a bit of oil, pulling as strong as ever. No real clues that there was a major problem with them, but we'll get into that and we'll look at it. So thanks again for clicking on here, and welcome to the 7890. Okay, here's the details. You'll see we have camshafts, cylinder head, piston, throttle bodies. So we'll go left to right. That's probably the easiest way. Camshafts, not a problem. Now, camshafts appear to be okay. There's a few witness marks on them, but otherwise they're all okay. All the camshaft controversy that's going on at the minute with KTM, I fully understand people's worry about it and things like that. But this bike had 34,000 miles on it. It's had more oil than P. Diddy's hands through it than on a Friday night. So frequent oil changes and a few other wee tricks, which I'll maybe go into later on, may have saved my cams a little bit. But the real story is actually over here. So you can see there's a rather large chunk out of this piston. It looks like to be heat related. So you can see there's some heat marks and burnt oil on the back of it. So I think I've been maybe just giving it the beans too much. It's overheated, caused a bit of a warp. There's actually quite a big warp in it. I can't, where is it? There's a big warp there. I don't know if you can see it, if I can zoom in. You can just see a big warp there. And then obviously, bang, bang, bang. I think I felt it at the time. It felt like a bog. And it obviously felt like something went through the engine. And I think it's in the catalytic converter, because I can hear a rattle. And it was quite funny because I thought it was my clutch was rattling, because when I pulled the clutch and the noise went away, but it could have been that in the catalytic converter. But we'll get to that. On to the head. Obviously, with that rattling about in there, there's some damage to the head. Let me just take off the bridge. Oh, excuse the orange gloves. I have bought a lot of orange stuff the last few years. Okay, so we'll just lift the bridge off. This is all just sitting here. There's a few bits which are catching that. So you can lift it off gently, set her down. Okay, so here is the 790 head. Obviously, exhaust side, intake side. You can see my followers all look pretty good. These are original followers, by the way. These are not dressed up for a video. Sorry if the focus has been a bit funny, but I'm just trying to handhold my phone. You can see all that. They look good. And then you can see I've taken the valve springs out of here, but it's when you flip to the other side, and let me turn around, you can see they've had a bit of a bashing. They are quite badly damaged there. The shims are all accounted for, nothing was out of place, but obviously as it's rattling, you can see that one's like a sharp tooth, but it's only those two exhaust ones. Sorry, that's the exhaust, that's the intake. It's only this side of the engine that somehow got it. The rest of them look fine. So you can see that. They look fine, and I believe these are the original ones, as in the ones that are causing the problems with everybody's cams. Again, there looks to be plenty of oil in here. The journals all look okay. Excuse the dirt that's in here. This thing's been sitting in a workshop for a few days, and it's been taken apart, so obviously it'll need to be cleaned if it goes back together. But the journals are, in my opinion, and I'm not a qualified mechanic, they look kind of okay. There's a bit of dirt and stuff about, but otherwise okay. And on the underside, I don't want to tip this over because you may get things, but everything kind of looks nice and shiny as it should be, I think. There's no real wear marks there or witness marks. So let me just put this in the right way so I can store it later. Okay, that's that. Bridge-wise, it looks just lots of oil in there, fairly clean. Doesn't seem to be any debris or debris. And the case actually looks in good condition. If you look down the intakes, all looks nice and clean. It's not full of dust or anything like that. pressure switches there, temperature sensors there. So thermostat. So all in all, it's a fairly simple head, just lots of bolts and things to put in it. Cams are good. And then we come over to throttle bodies. Now, as you know, the breather comes off the top of the cam case on a 790, and you can see inside the throttle body is a little bit caked. So I think obviously the oil has been coming back through here that I've been using, but ironically there was no smoke out the back of the engine. So that's just kind of run through the cam stuff. Sorry if I'm ranting a little bit. I'm just kind of trying to introduce you to the problem, and then we'll get to the solution. But in the meantime, I have a box full of 790 bits. As you can see, everything's bagged and tagged, so everything's in there. It may be a future project. We may go into having a look at all the 780 bits and stuff, and oil pan, pump, all the bits, but it's all kept in a nice clean box here. It's quite a good number of spares, but we'll get into that, and we'll maybe do that in a future video. Okay, this is just a chance to look at the underside of the cylinder head. You can see this is the damaged piston area. So you can see chunkity chunk, a few chunks taken out. This valve here, I think, is the one that's leaking a little bit. So we think they're all bent. Okay, I don't really know the best way to do this, but we'll just do a walk around of the original chassis. Obviously, the original 790S, which was a 2019 model. I bought it in March 2019, so it was one of the first ones in Scotland at the time. Rode the bike, just done a lot of tours, stuff like that. As I say, it's got 34,000 miles on it, so it's showing its age a wee bit. You know, dirty gear, dusty gears, things like that. But upgrades that have been done have there's just suspension cartridges, rally cartridges from Andriani, the Italian company. Bars, steer and damper, usual stuff. Electrics wise, just CAN busy type stuff to run lights and things like that. Mirrors are on there as well. As you come further back, you'll see something that's not standard on the 790S. It's attractive suspension. I forget the actual name of the model, but basically it's the equivalent of a I think it's the equivalent of the rally shock that you get on it. It's basically a high, low speed compression, rebound, etc., etc. Really good shock. Really changed the way the bike rides, and you can hit rough stuff pretty hard in it. Coming back, big change I made was the power commander. That really smoothed out the fuel and low down on the 790 in combination with the Rottweiler intake, which, as you can see, is not. But basically, because we've had the engine out, the next job is to put a new engine in, and we'll come on to that. But literally, for those of you who are wondering what is entailed in putting a 790 or an 890 engine into a frame, there's 2 bolts here, there's 4 bolts here, 2 on either side, so there and there, and then there's the swing arm pivot. That is it. So the engine just bloop, and it goes. It might be a bit foodery with I might have to hang it off the ceiling. I was planning on building a frame around the bottom of the engine and lowering it down and putting the other one in, putting it back up. But I'm going to have to get inventive, because there is a special tool for the swing arm. There's a special tool for the swing arm which just inserts it and holds it all together. But I'm not going to buy a special tool. I will compromise with either a piece of bar, or we'll find another way of framing it and setting it on top of the engine. And so to the engine. Right. This is still to be tested. So I'm still to do a leak down test on it, make sure it's all okay inside, do a bore scope, and that'll hopefully come later, either in this episode or maybe another episode. Bit of background for history. This bike was involved in a road traffic collision with 2,256 miles on it. So literally it's hopefully had its first service, and it's literally just running. There's no oil in it at the minute, obviously no fluid, no bike attached to it. So it's a 2021 Duke R model. So standard, they were 120 brake horsepower, 92 Newton meters of torque, I think it was. Give you some stats. So basically, the research that I've done with these engines is, if you look at the fascias online, I use Gear 4 Motorcycles fascia. I just find it easier to do a compare. I've had both the Adventure and the Duke engines side by side from 2021, and in all respects, they appear to be identical. maybe the way they're wired in or the way the wires run around the outside is different, but the actual units themselves have the same gear ratios, same camshafts, same crankshafts, and appear to be identical. Now, I stand to be corrected, but from the research I've done, and what I'll maybe do is I'll maybe set up a Google G Drive folder full of all the sort of stuff that I've found. I've taken screen grabs of stuff so people can if they want to have a look at it, they can. But I suggest if you get open two browsers side by side, two browser windows, and compare them, you'll see that the 790, or sorry, the 890, I'm going to get confused like that all the time. The 890 engine, in fact, the 790s are the same as well, I think, across the Duke and the Adventure. So that's the unit I've got. It's fairly clean. It looks like it may have been sitting around for a bit. There's a few bits and bobs which maybe need a bit of a cleanup, but generally throttle bodies are dead clean. Down the sparkles, you can see are fairly clean. Does need a bit of a clean at the front. Sorry if I'm spinning you upside down here, folks, but it's hard to handhold and do this at the same time. But overall, it's in good condition. I'm quite pleased with the purchase. There's a wee bit of work to do here around the alternator cover with regard to the crank position sensor plug here. But other than that, that's just getting to know the engine. But all the mounting points look good. It just needs a bit of a clean up. It hasn't been used a while. Thankfully, it's still in neutral. Either that or the gearbox is broke. But yeah, there's a few bits and bobs that have been pulled off it when it's been at the breakers, but otherwise it's fine. For those of you who are interested, it was sourced from via eBay through a company called Motomine, who, well, looking at the reviews, will have a pretty good reputation for supplying decent second-hand parts, salvage parts. They are part of Fourth Dimension, which is one of the big, how do they call it, accident handling agencies that a lot of insurance companies use. People may have varied experience with them. I've heard various things about them in the past, but the experience I've had so far with Motomine has been top-notch. Really quick delivery. I made an offer for an engine which they accepted fairly quickly, and I think I got a pretty good deal on it. It even comes with orange bits. So that's the engine. You'll see there's various bits dotted about. There's a rattly cat, which probably has the bit of the piston in. It's like one of these Impossible puzzles. I'm going to have to tilt it certain ways to see if I can get that bit out, to see if it actually is a piece of the piston. And then you can see various bits and bobs. You've got my hoses, bits of frames, the rad pack, the intake, my hoover, which I'll need to suck out. And it'll be used to sort of make sure the cylinders in this are clean before anything's fired up. And that's really kind of the bike. Its future. Plastics are over there, that kind of thing. So the Duke engine from there into there, which I think will be fairly easy. It's just finding all the bolts, because I didn't take this apart. I'll admit it, I didn't take it apart. The dealer did it for me. He split the engine to find out what the actual problem was, and I now have a bag of bolts to try and put back together from memory about where stuff goes. So it should be pretty interesting. I'd like to caveat that, one, I'm not a mechanic nor qualified at anything regarding anything at all. This is totally me just doing my own bike, and I hope that you stick with the journey and see the outcome. I've got a lot of cleaning to do in around here, so I'll give this a deep clean. I've also got to tidy up my bloody workspace because it's absolutely rammed with just rubbish at the minute, and once I do that, then I'll start getting on. But the first thing we're going to do is start testing that engine. So thanks again for clicking on this video. We're going to take you on a wee bit of a journey. The objectives of this is really just to document what I'm doing. It's also to give you guys who maybe have an older 790 or are looking to get into the KTM parallel twins, the LC8Cs, and are a wee bit worried about, how you say, longevity, reliability and stuff and things like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that engine could be a dud. I haven't tested it yet. We still need to do some checks on it. I'm hoping it's all okay. It does have a warranty for return within a certain time period, which I'm keen to get it running before then. So we'll do some checks on it, and hopefully then we'll know if we've got a good unit or not. At risk, yeah, of course, everything is. As I said, the objectives of this is to just document the change. I want to basically show the guys out there who maybe have a broken 790 that this is possible. I'd like to thank a chap called Sean on the KTM forums for asking the question and just going ahead and doing it. He had a similar situation to me where his Duke 790 was grenaded. He's fitted an 890, and it basically all he had to do was change the throttle bodies. I'm going to go a bit deeper about what I have to do and try and just suss out what I can and can't use. So it means that in the future, anybody watching this has a bit of a reference about what's been done. As far as I'm aware, I think this is the first adventure to be done, although I know there are other people who are thinking about it as well. I think it's a good option that if you have a 790 and you like the bike, it's good chassis, good suspension, why not? The engines are you can get quite a few engines online at the moment, but it is an option for us, and it'd be quite good to document it. So there you go. So anyway, my name was John, or is John. Stick around with us. I don't know how often the episodes will go up. I'll try and record as much stuff as I can. I hope you stick around and watch me get this done. Hopefully it shouldn't be quite a lengthy process. It's not like I'm rebuilding a whole engine. It's literally a plug and play, hopefully. I'm hoping to get this running by end of November, which is just over a month away. This time we're sort of halfway through October. So that's the plan. Stick with us. If you want to click subscribe, go for it. If you want to click a like, go for it. If you want to share it, go for it. But if you've come across some of my other socials on Instagram, which is mainly ecos_ADV, and we have actually a dedicated Instagram channel, Project789T, which is Project_789T, as in the letter T. Have a look at that. That'll be where I'll be probably sharing day-to-day information about any progress we make. I do work full-time. I have got 3 kids and a wife, so I'm doing this in my garage in my own time, so it may take a wee while to get through it, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So thanks again for coming along, and yeah, let's do this. If you've got any comments, stick them down below. I'll try and reply to as many as I can, time permitting. If you've got anything, you can message me on the Instagram stuff. We've also set up a WhatsApp community chat, so it may be good for like-minded guys who are watching this to maybe pass some advice to me, like, have you tried this, thought of that, especially if I'm having some problems as I go through. If you've got a particular question you want to ask me, and with my limited knowledge, I'll let you know. I've had this bike for 5, almost 6 years since new, so I've done a lot to it. In fact, to just let you know, it's had a lot done to it. So, you know, I kind of know nuts and bolts and things that work, things that don't work. So let me know if you want anything answered like that. I know there's a lot of new 790 owners with the Chinese version, which is basically the same bike. There's a few bits and bobs. If you want me to talk through the differences that I've noticed with that, then we can have a chat. But otherwise, yeah, thanks for coming along, and we'll catch you on the next one.